The sky is a brutal arena. It is a three-dimensional chessboard where nations wager their sovereignty. For decades, the narrative has been one of American air supremacy, a story written in the exhaust plumes of ever more advanced, ever more expensive fighter jets. The F-22 Raptor, the B-2 Spirit, and now, the F-35 Lightning II, a machine billed as the undisputed king of the skies, a technological marvel intended to dominate any adversary for the next half-century. It is the Goliath of modern air power, stealth sensors, networked warfare. Its very existence is meant to be a deterrent, a clear message to any would-be foe. But a different story is being quietly written in the cold skies of Scandinavia. It is a story not of overwhelming technological force, shrewd design, pragmatic engineering, a fundamentally different philosophy of air combat. This narrative centers on a smaller, lighter, and far less vaunted fighter. Smaller, lighter, far less vaunted fighter, the Swedish Saab J-39 Gripen. The Gripen is no stealth bomber. It doesn't carry the same political weight or the trillion-dollar price tag of the F-35 program. It is the David in this story, a nimble and clever warrior designed not to meet the giant on its own terms, but to exploit its inherent weaknesses. The rivalry between these two aircraft is not merely a competition for international sales contracts. The Pentagon has bet everything on the F-35. To understand the Grippen's challenge to the F-35, one must first understand the unique philosophy that birthed it. Sweden, a nation with a long history of neutrality and a fierce independent streak, could never compete with superpowers on a dollar-for-dollar basis. It couldn't afford to build massive air fleets or sprawling, pristine air bases. Its doctrine, therefore, was forged in the crucible of necessity. The nation needed a fighter that could be operated by a small number of conscripts maintained in austere conditions and dispersed across the country to survive a surprise first strike. The Gripen is the ultimate expression of this doctrine. It is designed to operate from damaged runways, frozen lake beds, and even reinforced public highways. A full engine swap, a task that can take days, and a specialized team for other fighters can be done on a Gripen in under an hour by a small, well-trained crew. Its turnaround time between sorties, refueling, and rearming is astonishingly short, measured in minutes, not hours. The latest iteration, the Gripen E, elevates this concept into the electronic warfare age. It is not designed to be a stealth aircraft in the traditional sense of being invisible to radar. Instead, it is a master of electronic self-preservation. Its sensor suite, including a powerful AESA radar and a revolutionary infrared search and track system, is world-class. But its true genius lies in its electronic warfare and networking capabilities. The Gripen E is built from the ground up to fight in a heavily contested electronic environment. The F-35's entire combat philosophy is built upon a single foundational pillar: low observability or stealth. The aircraft's shape radar absorbent materials internal systems minimize its radar cross-section. It lets the jet penetrate contested airspace, strike, and escape. This is the trump card that justifies its staggering cost. The Pentagon poured trillions into this bet. It makes the F-35 a first-day asset. But what if that pillar cracks? What if the cloak isn't absolute? Gripen exposes that fatal flaw. The Swedish jet doesn't chase radars, it sidesteps them. The Gripen E's skyward G-Erst hunts heat, not radar. The F-35 is still an engine-powered jet blasting through the air at high speed. It creates heat from engine exhaust and friction on the airframe, a signature ERS can spot from miles away. That single capability changes the combat math. An F-35 confident in invisibility could be tracked by a non-emitting Gripen. Gripen shares that fix via tactical data link. Suddenly, one F-35 faces a coordinated team that knows where it is. The jet becomes the hunted, unaware. The Gripen's challenge goes beyond a simple technological counter. It exposes a deeper, more troubling operational blind spot in the Western way of war: an over-reliance on centralized command and pristine operating conditions. The F-35 is a masterpiece of networked warfare, but it is deeply dependent on that network. It relies on a vast and complex logistical and data infrastructure, the Autonomic Logistics Information System that manages its maintenance, data links that connect it to satellites, AWACS, other command and control assets. This network is its great strength, but also its greatest point of failure. In a real-world conflict with a peer adversary like Russia or China, this infrastructure will be the first target. GPS signals will be jammed, satellite communications will be disrupted, sprawling air bases will be targeted by long-range ballistic and cruise missiles. In this chaotic environment, an aircraft's ability to operate autonomously or in small, decentralized groups becomes paramount. The F-35, with its deep logistical ties and reliance on off-board data, could find itself hobbled, but by a corrupted data server or a severed fiber optic cable thousands of miles away. This is where the Grippen's design philosophy becomes a strategic masterstroke. Squadrons of Grippens could be scattered across a country, generating sorties and controlling the airspace. Their high-end data links allow them to create their own ad hoc network. This creates a shocking asymmetry. The theoretical clash between these two philosophies is one thing, but, whispers from complex large force exercises like Red Flag held in the vast ranges of the Nevada desert give these theories a chilling dose of reality. While direct matchups are often classified, the anecdotes and debriefs that filter out from pilots and observers paint a really compelling picture. In these exercises, aggressor squadrons, often flying older F-16s and F-18s but employing advanced tactics and electronic warfare, are tasked with simulating a peer adversary. Their job is to find and exploit the weaknesses of blue air assets, including the F-35. Reports have consistently emerged from these war games, highlighting the effectiveness of networked fighters, non-stealth fighters employing advanced IRSTs and EW tactics. In several scenarios, Red Air Forces were able to achieve surprise kills on F-35s by using passive detection methods and collaborative targeting. A single aircraft would detect the F-35's heat signature, then data link that information to a wingman who could maneuver into a firing position without ever using their own radar. The F-35 pilot, secure in their stealth, would be unaware of the threat until a simulated missile was already in the air. These exercises reveal that the F-35 is not invincible. Its success is highly dependent on the scenario and the rules of engagement. Represents the very type of threat that gives F-35 pilots headaches in these simulations. The tactics employed by the U.S. aggressor squadrons are a mirror image of the Grippen's core doctrine. It's honestly a shocking revelation that what happens in the Nevada desert is a validation of the design philosophy born in the Swedish forests. Modern warfare is a brutal calculus of cost and attrition. The most advanced fighter in the world is useless if it's too expensive to buy in sufficient numbers or too costly to fly and train with. This is the most significant weakness of the F-35 program that the Gripen mercilessly exposes. The F-35 is the most expensive weapons program in human history. Flyaway cost of a single F-35A is north of $80 million, and that's just the sticker price. The real killer is the operational cost. Cost per flight hour for an F-35 is staggering, recently estimated at over $42,000. This affects pilot training and fleet readiness. Now consider the Gripen E. Gripen's flyaway cost is significantly lower. Its true edge is in its running costs. Gripen cost per flight hour, reportedly well under $10,000, some estimates closer to $5,000. For the price of one F-35 hour, you can fly 4 to 8 Gripens. This is a war-winning advantage. More pilots get more hours, leading to higher proficiency. In this maintenance marathon, the Gripen laps the F-35 repeatedly. Beyond the eye-watering flight hour costs lies the tangled, complex web of F-35 maintenance. The aircraft was designed with a revolutionary but deeply troubled logistics system called ALIS, replaced by the equally complex Odin. Intended as a global, interconnected network, monitors the health of every F-35, predicts parts failures, automates the supply chain. In theory, a logistician's dream. In practice, a nightmare, grounding entire fleets because of software glitches and data connectivity issues. The F-35 is a hangar queen by design. It requires specialized tools, highly trained technicians, pristine climate-controlled facilities, and a constant high-bandwidth link to the U.S. logistics network. Its stealth coding is notoriously delicate. The Gripen stands in stark, almost defiant contrast. Its maintenance philosophy is the polar opposite. Engineered for ease of maintenance in the harshest conditions, it requires no large, specialized ground support equipment. Key components are modular, line-replaceable units Gripen squadrons keep flying hour after hour. The core difference between the Gripen and the F-35 is, honestly, a tale of two deeply divergent national philosophies. The F-35 is the product of a superpower's quest for absolute technological supremacy. It's an expression of the American belief that any problem can be solved with a sufficiently advanced and expensive technological silver bullet. The goal was to create a single platform that could do everything: air-to-air combat, ground attack, intelligence gathering, electronic warfare, and do it better than any other aircraft on Earth. It's a top-down approach, a declaration that America will dictate the terms of any future conflict. This philosophy of supremacy has led to immense complexity. The F-35's software contains more than 8 million lines of code, a figure that continues to grow. Integrating so many capabilities into one airframe has resulted in compromises in kinematic performance, compromises in payload capacity. It's also inherently rigid. The F-35 systems are largely a black box, source code and upgrade paths tightly controlled by Lockheed Martin and the Pentagon. Allied nations that buy the F-35 are not just buying a jet, they're buying into a closed ecosystem. The Gripen, born from a smaller nation's need for survival, embodies a philosophy of adaptability. Saab's approach is open architecture and collaborative. They actively work with customer nations to integrate their own specific weapons, sensors, communication systems onto the jet. If Brazil wants to use a Brazilian-made missile, Saab helps make it happen. This allows each user to tailor the Gripen to their specific threats and operational needs. It's a bottom-up approach that empowers the operator, rather than locking them into a single, predetermined way of fighting. This makes the Gripen incredibly flexible and future-proof. This adaptability is its greatest strategic strength. The Gripen can be upgraded and evolved quickly. The Gripen is a nimble predator, constantly evolving to survive in a changing environment. So why isn't the Pentagon shouting about this from the rooftops? Why isn't there a national debate about the potential vulnerabilities of a multi-trillion-dollar investment? The answer is a complex mix of political necessity, industrial inertia, and strategic calculation. The F-35 program is, simply put, too big to fail. It represents the backbone of American and Allied air power for the next 40 years. Admitting to a fundamental flaw that a cheaper, nimbler competitor exposes would be catastrophic, not just for Lockheed Martin's stock price, but for the credibility of American military planning. The silence is a strategic imperative. Publicly acknowledging that the F-35 is vulnerable to passive detection via IRIST, or that it can be outmaneuvered in a war of attrition, would be handing a playbook to potential adversaries. It would validate the strategies of nations like Russia-China, who are investing heavily in the very systems. Advanced IRIST's networked air defenses and electronic warfare. The Pentagon's strategy is to maintain an aura of invincibility around the F-35. Furthermore, the F-35 is as much a political tool as it is an industrial tool. The program ties allied nations into the American defense ecosystem for decades to come. Partner countries become dependent on American logistics software updates and political goodwill. It offers nations a path to high-end air power without becoming wholly dependent on the United States. Ultimately, the American giant remains silent because it has no other choice. To admit that the nimble Swedish Gripen has exposed a potential checkmate would be to admit that the entire game might be flawed.